October 4th, year 2017, Gregorian calendar. We're standing here in front of the U.S. Federal Court in Phoenix, Arizona, where Judge Bolton has just affirmed the presidential pardon for the criminal contempt of court, which former Sheriff Joe Arpaio was found guilty of here in Maricopa County. The affirmation of the presidential pardon given by Donald Trump last month was affirmed here today. The significance of this action has its implications in the local community in the most drastic fashion, being that such acts of discriminatory policing, which Arpaio was found guilty of, the criminal contempt related to those practices, which he normalized and allowed to pass as policy, the local impact of the decision today is going to be of a dimension still to be determined. The determination of that impact will have much to do with how the community itself is going to respond, and how the general community, the most impacted community itself, and how the general community will come to solidarity and support for the necessary actions to protect the human rights, the rights of the family, and the rights of the children involved in the policies that have been affirmed by the decision of Judge Bolton here today. At the national level, it's another version again of the same narrative, another chapter in the master's narrative of white supremacy that led Joe Arpaio to engage in these type of campaigns and police actions discriminatory against the Mexican constituencies in the county of Maricopa and in Arizona, that led subsequently, after Arpaio's policies were brought forward and implemented as a county sheriff, that was an inspiration for the SB 1070 legislation that was adopted by the state legislature in 2010. That SB 1070, although it was since taken to the U.S. Supreme Court, and everything but the Section 2B, the papers, show me your paper section, is still in place. The rest of it was eliminated by court decision of the Supreme Court, was put under restraint. That initiative, 1070, then fomented the national explosion of racial persecution disguised as immigration policies that led to similar legislations in Georgia. Now we see the scenario in Texas. And all of this created the platform, the political platform for the white supremacy psychology to emanate and produce a candidate that now was the President of the United States, Donald Trump, with his cohort of white supremacist accomplices that are putting forward the agenda as we go forward. The decision today, once again, to be denounced in all of these levels as a violation of the civil rights of due process and equal protection, especially in terms of police policies and police protection. Also to be denounced in terms of violation of the human rights as are described in the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, specifically the right to work and also the right to a nationality. As indigenous peoples, we have a right to our nationality, our own indigenous nationality that supersedes and precedes the establishment of the nationalities of the United States and Mexico that instituted the border in 1848 under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, under which these policies of immigration enforcement are conceptualized and enforced. We bring that forward today now because at this moment, right now, a challenge is being instituted, is being articulated to bring forward the evidence of today and the incident today as a factor to be addressed in the negotiations of the North American Free Trade Agreement that are currently in process between U.S. and Mexico. With this action today, at the highest level of the federal executive, Donald Trump, as sitting president of the United States, he puts into risk the international relationship that we have as Mexican peoples with the federal government and its subdivisions, all the way from the county to the city, to the state, and even the tribal jurisdictions. Due to the fact that there is a treaty in place, it's a treaty of peace. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, 1848, is a treaty of peace where we agreed to live peacefully with each other and put down the instrument of warfare and try to find a way to coexist in peaceful coexistence. As original Mexican peoples with descendants of the original nations of the territory, and also in fellowship with the immigrant constituencies that arrived here from Plymouth Rock and other points further east, including Spain. To that point, we say that this decision today is an act in violation. By affirming President Trump's pardon, it's a violation of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. It's a violation of the peace. It must be brought to bear into the negotiations that are currently being conducted related to the North American Free Trade Agreement as a violation of the right of free, prior, and informed consent and the basic human rights of indigenous peoples in the territory, the Affirmed territories, now known as the County of Maricopa, the state of Arizona. Affirmed territories who, to our understanding, never gave authorization to President Santa Anna of Mexico in 1848 to pass these territories over to the U.S. government. The Mexican government of the time under President Santana never had the jurisdiction to pass over to the federal superstructure through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. Nevertheless, we are bound by the agreement of peace that the treaty ascribes, and under those obligations to live in peaceful coexistence, we call for justice to be brought forward and an international tribunal of justice to be convened to address these issues now that the domestic remedies have been completely, absolutely exhausted, and there's no other remedy for justice of the indigenous Mexican peoples in Maricopa County in the state of Arizona except to call to the international community to answer our call for an international tribunal of justice on this issue, including the presidential pardon of Arpaio for criminal contempt for the discriminatory policing practices of his department during his tenure as sheriff. No toka Tupac, Enrique Acosta, Yautashka, Tatoka Nawakali, Skaloteca, Ayo.
Tupac, can you look at the indictment and read just the first titles? And
this indictment was produced in 2011 by the Human Rights Commission of the Comités de Defensa del Barrio. It was presented and it was processed to the Human Rights Commission, and the accusations and information and testimony was compiled, deliberated upon, and the determination was made that the call to justice goes on regardless of what happens in the domestic venues of the U.S. courts, regardless of what happens in the municipal venues of the city of Phoenix, or even in the county venues of the County of Maricopa. The call and the cause of justice goes on and will be pursued by the Human Rights Commission of the Comités de Defensa del Barrio de la Tierra.